Hey everybody, Captain Foley with you again today. Today we're doing another Star Trek movie review. This one is Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. There so you can see it. There we go. This is one of my favorites. I love the way it ties in with Star Trek 2. Basically happens right after the events of Star Trek 2. And yeah, usually it's the odd-numbered Star Trek movies aren't good. The even numbers are the good ones. This one's kind of an exception. There are a few things that are about it, but overall it's one of my favorites, and we're just going to take a look at it right now. So, hope you guys like and subscribe to my channel and like my videos. It really helps me out. I think I just hit 100 subscribers, so very excited about that. I'm trying to get that number up. So if you like these videos, please subscribe. If you don't like these videos, please subscribe. I'll probably do something you're going to like eventually. So I'm not a bad guy. I do say I love Star Trek to death, but they all have their little mistakes, foibles, things that shouldn't be, and I got to point those out. I got to be a devil's advocate. And I know I bashed JJ's Trek. It's got all its good points too, though. So everything's got its good points, everything's got its bad points. You can't judge something fairly unless you can judge the things you like equally as fairly. So that's why I'm doing these videos. A lot of people have requested them, so here we go. If you haven't had a chance yet, I suggest you check out my Star Trek 2 video when you get a minute. Probably before this one, and I also have done Star Trek the Motion Picture. I've also done both of JJ's Abominations, but I'm going to end up doing those in this format eventually, after all the Star Trek Prime universe movies are completed. So, and of course here at the beginning we get a little recap of what happened at the end of Star Trek 2 when Spock dies. We get the recap of his death, the recap of the funeral, and the recap of the torpedo tube landing softly on the Genesis planet at the end of the movie. And then we jump right into this movie. So, yeah, you've seen all this before, so I'm just going to continue on. And this one, of course, directed by Spock, so that his involvement in the movie wasn't a big giveaway that he was coming back. But here comes the Enterprise. Beautiful scene, beautiful scene.
Use this Enterprise captain's personal log.
All the battle damage. Take note of the battle damage that is on the Enterprise from the battle with Khan. This down here, very noticeable. You're going to see some plating welded over top to fix it. This up here wasn't really evident in the Star Trek 2 movie, but it was, I did point it out in the last video as far as the damage control on the bridge went. These showed quite visibly. They never got hit there, but I'm assuming it might have been debris from this area that flew up when it got damaged. So that's how I think the saucer damage happened, but check out my other video for that.
But most of our battle damage repaired were almost.
And that gives you a good look at the battle damage and the repair jobs they've been doing. They've got these sheets of metal welded over the main areas that have damage, which is really neat to see how they would go about repairing a starship on its way back to space dock. I think that's really, really cool to see that.
Yet I feel uneasy, and I wonder why. Perhaps it's the emptiness in this vessel. Most of our trainee crew have been reassigned. Lieutenant Saavik and my son David are exploring the Genesis planet.
Oops, wrong button. I'm going to pause you guys for a second until I get something interesting. This scene here, of course, is the first time we see a bird of prey ever in Star Trek history. And use of cloaking devices in the movies. There's something I want you to take note of here. See here walking up? Oh, here. See this right here? That's clearly her veil. She has a veil over her face that just reveals her eyes. I've seen production photos of the veil on, but most times, or like in the movie here, all you see is it off. And obviously it's on there, and there's another scene later where it's on. And I'll point that out to you in just a second. See, now it's off. As we can clearly see, the beautiful Klingon cleavage. Where before, that was definitely covered, because that's what draws my attention to it, for sure.
This is Valkyries.
Well done, Valkyries. Well done. What the hell is Chuck then? It's Chuck.
And as we all know, the Klingon commander here is played by Christopher Lloyd. Amazing actor. Probably know him better as Doc Brown from Back to the Future. It's a Klingon Targ. Sorry, that's not a Targ. Targ is like a pig-like creature. That's just a Klingon dog, I guess. A Darg. So, beautiful cleavage. That ship appears so huge there, but it's only manned by 12 people. The bird of prey are very small.
What the hell's going on? When do I get paid off?
Soon, Captain. Quite soon. Anyway, as I was saying, the bird of prey are quite small. That one's manned by 12 people. There's 3 different classes of bird of prey. In the Next Generation, it's the bigger class. I don't recall all their names offhand. There's the Burrell. I can't remember them. I'd have to look. I have the Haynes Klingon bird of prey manual, and it says in there the different classes. One's very big, that one, the bird of prey, is very small. 12-man crew is all it has, and I actually mentioned that later in this movie. I love that they have space dock in this movie and not just an orbital dry dock, because last 2 movies we've seen the Enterprise in the orbital dry dock, and it's cool that they did something new with this movie. The dry dock is pretty cool. Or, I mean, space dock. Once again, guys, it's morning. I'm working on my coffee, so I apologize for any mistakes I might make. And I love this movie too because you get a lot of Starfleet operations information, like how things work. On their way back from a battle, how the damage was being repaired. The coming into space dock here, the protocols for if somebody steals a starship. There's a bunch of cool stuff that you learn about Starfleet in this movie. You get to see a real inside look of what goes on. That's really cool. Like this is cool too. Of course, our first look at the Excelsior. Look at that. My friends, the great experiment. The Excelsior.
Excelsior. Ready for trial runs.
She's supposed to have Transwarp Drive.
Supposed to have Transwarp Drive.
Aye. And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon. Come, Mr. Scott. Young minds, fresh ideas, be tolerant. See, I can't really remember my first reaction to seeing the Excelsior. There's Janice Rand. She was, of course, in the motion picture, not in Star Trek 2. Motion picture, she was blonde. She was working in the transporter control room. And here she is here as a redhead. Good thing. Okay. Here, too, there's damage up on the warp engine. Don't recall that happening during the battle. However, once again, I don't know if it could be from flying debris from here. I think they made it look a little more damaged than it actually was from Star Trek 2, just so that it looks like it had the shit kicked out of it, which it definitely did have. Which leads me to JJ's Star Trek, where his fucking Enterprise in Into Darkness took more damage than the original series this Enterprise took through the whole original series and through all of the movies. It took a shit kicking, but JJ's would be totally freaking annihilated and destroyed by the amount of damage it took. It was a little ridiculous. Basically, it was a Star Wars battle, not a Star Trek battle in Into Darkness, but...
Stand by and protocol gravitational support systems.
Aye, sir. Board's activated. All systems standing by.
Admiral, this is not possible.
This part is also interesting, and a lot of people give this theme guff for no apparent reason. I'll tell you why in just 1 second here.
Yes, sir. I sealed the room myself.
Look at this. I'm reading that one.
This entire crew seems on the edge of obsessive behavior concerning Mr. Spock.
Of course, here we have, and this is directly out of the original technical manual, because it's Class 1 Heavy Cruiser. And this is the original TOS blueprint. A lot of people are, well, why, you know, they had the refit, that doesn't look anything like the Enterprise, what the fuck are they doing? The refit was basically just built over the substructure of the old ship. Now, it does raise an interesting question. Why haven't they updated their computer files to at least have the ship look like the refit? Maybe they didn't have enough time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they were going to do that before they had to launch for the motion picture because the cloud was coming. They didn't get around to it, and then it just never happened. Who knows? You would think that Starfleet would be on top of that. It would be a simple little upgrade, just like a Windows update for your computer. But no, that's why, because this is basically the original Enterprise, just with this new substructure built over it, new engines installed, new systems, things like that. So this would have the same main computer core and basically the same blueprints on the inside as far as placement of quarters, rooms like that. So that's why we have an old computer display showing the original Heavy Cruiser, which Heavy Cruiser Constitution class. So wrong button again. Morning. And this scene here, where you hear Jim, help me. Those are actually that's actually Leonard Nimoy saying that.
Help me. You left me on Genesis. Why did you do that? Help me.
Surprise, it's McCoy.
Aye. What the hell are you doing? Have you lost your mind? Help me, Jim. Take me home.
Once we are. We are home.
Then perhaps it's not too late. Climb the steps, Jim. Climb the steps of Mount Selaya.
Selaya. Paul's Mount Selaya is on Vulcan. We're home. On Earth.
Remember.
Admiral, docking is completed. Starfleet Commander Marlowe is on his way for inspection.
Who Laura, get the medics down here. Get them now.
Chief Engineer or Chief Medical Officer McCoy to Spock's quarters. Oh, wait a minute. That's not going to work.
Most difficult conditions.
There's a little bit of a discrepancy here where Kirk says we plan to take Enterprise back to the Genesis planet.
The Enterprise is 20 years old.
And he says the Enterprise is 20 years old. Its day is over. We all know that the events from Space Seed happened 15 years ago, which was in the first season of the Next Generation. Or not the Next Generation. Oh my god. Of the original series. So it's in the first season. So that was 15 years ago, which means that the Enterprise had another 5-year mission prior to Kirk, which is true, because there was the original captain was Captain April, and the next captain was Captain Christopher Pike. Then Kirk got command. So the Enterprise was in service for 10 years under Captain April. I'm almost 100% sure that it was 10 years under the command of Captain April. Then I think Christopher Pike did at least 1, maybe even 2 tours of duty. And assuming that a tour of duty for a Constitution-class ship was 5 years, it's a 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, would make it a lot older than 20 years old. But if anybody's watching this that knows the numbers a bit better, I know them. I would have to look them up real quick. Pretty sure Captain April commanded her for 10 years, and Pike had at least 1 tour of duty, so 5 years. And then Kirk's 5-year mission, and then the 10 years after that. So 15 to go back to Space Seed, which is season 1, and then 5 years before that, 20, and another 10 years. So at least 30 years old. The Constitution class Enterprise should be at least 30 years old, but they're just kind of throwing out a number there, and I don't think it's 100% accurate. There's been quite a few upgrades done to the Enterprise over the years. Even if you look at the bridge in the cage when Captain Christopher Pike is commanding, totally different bridge layout, everything. See what happens with the bridge modules. The bridges is different in every one of these movies. That's because they upgrade the bridge modules. The bridge modules come completely out, and you insert a new bridge. It's basically like plug and play, and that's how Starfleet does their bridge design. So for the 5-year mission, of course, they were not near Earth, so they weren't near a facility that could do the upgrade. So of course they had the same bridge for 5 years at least. And of course with this ship, every time you see it in a new movie, except for this one because it's the same ship as in Star Trek 2. When you see it in Star Trek 4, it's a brand new ship, of course, and so it's got a new bridge. Star Trek 5 has a different bridge, and Star Trek 6 has a different bridge. And it's all because they upgrade their bridge modules. And instead of just upgrading the whole ship or having to go in and just, revamp the whole bridge, they have removable bridge modules that come straight out. Not a lot of people know that, but it's true.
We feel liaison, but we have requested.
We'd hope to take her back to Genesis.
That is out of the question.
May I ask why?
In your absence, Genesis has become a galactic controversy. Until the Federation...
This part 2 has always been kind of a moment for me. If you remember in Star Trek 2, the information about the Genesis device was a report done by Dr. Carol Marcus. When and why did Kirk make this video? Okay, why would be the first obvious question. The next obvious question is, where did he make it? Did they go back to regular 1 after the Reliant got destroyed? Because the background here is clearly not the Enterprise, unless it's one of the Enterprise researcher science labs, which is a possibility, I guess. But why did he make this video? Why aren't they watching the video that Carol Marcus made? Why did Admiral Kirk go ahead and make a new video with basically the same animations and all the same information? It's just kind of a head scratcher. It's like, why? Because even in Star Trek 2, he had to show Spock and McCoy the information on the Genesis device because they didn't know anything about it. And it was a presentation by Carol Marcus, who was designing the thing, which makes 100% perfect sense. This, with Admiral Kirk doing it, really doesn't make much sense to me, and I don't know why he would have recorded this, or when he even had the opportunity. Anyway, after his friend died, and Starfleet say, "Oh, you gotta call him up. You gotta make a new video to explain what the fuck happened." So do your thing. Present the Genesis device to us. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Another thing, these guys are speaking English on the bridge of the ship. When they're speaking Klingon, they're actually speaking Klingon. But Star Trek, on the English topic, senior Klingon officers spoke English. The reason for that was the subordinates didn't speak English. All they spoke was Klingon. So the best way to keep secrets from them is to speak English, which is Federation Standard, is what the language is called. And probably not English per se, but it's English that we hear. But it was called Federation Standard. The senior officers knew Federation Standard and spoke to each other in it so that their subordinates didn't know what the fuck was going on. It makes perfect sense, actually. So when they speak Klingon on this ship, it's actually Klingon. And when they speak English, it's actually English. That's why they subtitle the Klingon for you. This gentleman here, Maltz, he is done by Dan Larroquette, John Larroquette, sorry, who played Dan in Night Court. Funny guy, good actor, and there's going to be a few more little tidbits about him during the course of this movie that I'll share with you. But yeah, that's John Larroquette from Night Court, the defense attorney Dan.
They can make planets. I guess you'll see some homes in the country.
Hey guys, in the scene I just did, I forgot to mention that the English, instead of speaking English, the top officers is mentioned in Star Trek 6, where Burke and Samno are talking in the transporter room, and they say, "You know, only top-of-the-line models even talk." That's exactly what they're referring to, is that the officers are the ones that speak English. Also, it's a direct parallel to real life on Romulan on Russian submarines. Russian officers spoke English just so that their crew wouldn't have any idea what was going on. I just thought I'd mention that because I failed to mention it in that video. So he just sent him back to the station, and since he understands Federation Standard, he's whispering to this guy, "Share this with no one." So, because the other officer could overhear him. But it just makes sense that they keep things from their subordinates by speaking in a language that their subordinates wouldn't know. So once you get trained as an officer, you learn this language. Now, that's actually mentioned a little bit later. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So here, of course, is the Grissom arriving at the Genesis planet. And Saavik is a different actress. She's not Kirstie Alley in this one. She's Robin Curtis. Another thing I want you guys to note. This officer here, she makes another appearance in this movie, but she's not on the Grissom. Things that make you go, maybe she has a twin sister. We'll get to that also. Just make note of her. So, Saavik is played by Robin Curtis in this movie, not Kirstie Alley. And the reason for that is Kirstie Alley, A, is not a Star Trek fan, and B, wanted as much money as William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy for this movie. They basically said, no, that's ridiculous. They're the stars, and because she doesn't have any interest in Star Trek, it was just another movie to her, she opted out instead of not getting paid what she wanted. So that's the story behind why Robin Curtis got the role. And it's a shame almost, because Kirstie Alley was really hot back then, and I would have liked to see more of her. But Robin Curtis, I think, makes a better Vulcan-Romulan hybrid. She's much more staunch and more, I don't know, she looks more like the role. Robin Curtis also did a few other Star Trek roles in The Next Generation. She played a Vulcan, and she also played a Romulan in one episode where Picard was working with the smuggling crew and was undercover. Gotta love these 80s computer graphics. They're just awesome.
Gravitational fields are in flux. It must have soft landed. In code to Starfleet. Captain Sparks 2 located on Genesis surface. Yes, sir. Coding your message.
And this scene here, watch the elevator here, the turbo lift.
She's to be decommissioned. Will we get another ship? I can't get an answer.
Kind of a bumpy ride. Just the guy behind the scene pulling down this little
No one has
turbo lift thing, and it kind of got caught. And so if you were on that elevator, you'd be like you'd be dead from that ride.
plumb full of tranquilizers. Then you know how bravely your son met his death.
This whole part, why did you leave him on Genesis? He trusted you, and you denied him his future. What do you think with all the Vulcans serving in Starfleet? Starfleet would know that if they die under certain conditions, only his body wasn't in death, that you'd be able to bring them back. Don't you think that'd be something good for Starfleet to know? Because there's a lot of Vulcans serving in Starfleet. I don't know. Or, I don't know. You would just think that a Vulcan would say, look, dude, if I'm dead, there's certain situations where if you take me back to Vulcan, you'd be able to reunite my katra with my body, and we're good to go again. Certain circumstances.
Your son meant more to me than you can know.
I don't know. It would just make sense to me. If I was I'd really want somebody to know that information just in case. Engine room flight recorder visual. It's pretty good quality. And where are these cameras located? And how do they zoom in on exactly what you need to zoom in on? And where's this camera? These, of course, are all just scenes from Star Trek 2. Legit. I understand that there would be visual recording equipment in the engineering room. But to get these shots, like they were done by a director, a little ridiculous. Like this one. This one actually follows them down to the ground. Like, where's this camera? And how does it know to pan down and kind of turn over to the side? Makes no sense to me. This is one of the things that always bugs me about movies and TV shows where they watch playbacks and it's just earlier footage. There's no way that there would be the camera set up to do that or make that kind of recording. It just doesn't make sense. It's one thing they should have fixed a little bit for that scene. I understand why they did it the way they did, however, it's not very realistic. And once again, as mentioned in my last video, this Genesis planet is just the perfect distance from a sun that it's not a frozen wasteland. Or did the Genesis device create a sun? No one knows. It just kind of makes you roll your eyes and go, what the hell? It's proof that even movies that aren't JJ's can make mistakes. However, I'm much more willing to accept these kind of mistakes because this is true Star Trek. It's got all the Star Trek elements. It's got the scientific, well, mainly scientific fact. And they don't disregard all that stuff. That's why I'm so hesitant about JJ's, because there's hardly any scientific realism in his movies. They're all action. They're great action movies, great sci-fi movies, but they're not Trek. I'm much more likely to overlook these kind of things with real Trek because it's an enjoyable ride. It's much more fun to watch, I think, than JJ's. Good Lord, there's a naked Vulcan running around somewhere on this planet. Another thing about Saavik that you might not have known, she was Spock's protege. Spock was training her. Initially, she was going to replace Spock on the Enterprise because Leonard Nimoy didn't want to do Spock anymore. But that kind of fell to the wayside when these movies took the progression they did.
I'm talking about loyalty and sacrifice. One man has died for us. Another with deep emotional problems.
Now wait a minute. This business about Spock and McCoy.
Yeah.
Funny little fact, this little lamp behind McCoy. Dot approves. No, this lamp behind McCoy, I actually had one of these as a kid. So when this movie, well, after this movie came out, but I used to have one of those in my room, and I thought it was so cool that it was in a Star Trek movie. Dot, what's this? Who's these people? Look at these people. This is Dot. She's cute. And she likes Star Trek. I'll stop now because I'm embarrassing myself. I love little dogs. Okay. Now this scene here, I know this is the hind end of space, but look at this place. Look at the fingerprints. Look at the dust on these consoles. I don't know about you, but I can't stand smudges or fingerprints on my iDevices. I need to wipe that shit off. I don't know why you wouldn't just wipe that off when you were working there. That's just a pet peeve of mine. I have a little bit of OCD. Well, actually, I have CDO. It's like OCD, only it's in alphabetical order. But if I was working there, that station would be clean. I need clean stations, clean touchpads, everything. Just a little Stuart moment there for you. Oh, and one more thing I really got to point out. Love the dude's hairstyle. It's so 80s. And those phasers, the phaser from this movie is one of my favorite phasers of all time. Even more so than the original series phaser. JJ should have done something more along these lines than along the lines he went. I hate the JJ phasers. But I actually have a phaser video. I have a collection of phasers downstairs in my collection. I have that particular one, just a resin prop. And if you want to check out one of my older videos, it's called Phaser Wall of Fame. And I go through all my phasers and look at them. So you might want to check that out if you're interested in that kind of thing. And this scene where they steal the Enterprise is awesome. And what is Chekhov like a Quaker? What's with this outfit? Look at the collar. It's also a good thing they're not all wearing uniforms, because the transition from Star Trek 3 into Star Trek 4, if they were wearing uniforms, it'd be very awkward to go back in time and be unnoticeable. So the fact that they were wearing all civilian clothes is kind of neat. But what the fuck is Chekhov wearing? Like, get rid of this. Clothes in the future. I tells you. May the wind be at our backs. Station space. Actually, might as well watch this part. It's totally awesome. Oops, hit the wrong button there, but check this out. This damage on the saucer seems to have got bigger. And it's, I don't know. I don't see that damage happening in Star Trek 2. If you watch Star Trek 2, they never really get hit there. So I don't know if it's debris flying up from that, but it just doesn't make sense to have that much damage on the saucer section. Anyway, I just think they wanted to make the ship look more beat up than it actually was.
Commander Starfleet on emergency channel. He orders you to surrender this vessel.
No reply, General. Steady as she goes. Yellow alert. Captain to the bridge. Yellow alert.
Bridge, this is the captain. How can you have a yellow alert in space, though?
Sir.
Someone is stealing the Enterprise. I'm on my way.
I'm on my way.
Why does he have his little baton? Must be a new captain. Power hungry. Oh, I love that ship.
Are you just
Gonna waltz through them. Calm yourself, Doctor. No, but I love the refit design. Oh, it's beautiful. The only thing better is the original Constitution class ship.
Excelsior powering up with orders to pursue.
And see, this bridge is kind of a throwback to the original series. This guy's from RoboCop. But all the colors on the bridge, there she is. The same chick from the Reliant. I think it's her twin sister. You'll see her again in a second. This also has the split helm console. There she is. That's the same chick from the Reliant. We've checked this out. It's the same chick. I've noticed this my whole life. And I don't think it's just because Asians look the same. If it is a different actress, I'd be totally amazed. But it's the same actress, I'm 100% sure. But I don't know. She must have a twin sister that's serving on the Excelsior and the Grissom. I don't know, man. It's craziness. This is when it's still NX 2000. It's not NCC because it's still an experimental craft. And now, Mr. Scott. Sir, the doors, Mr. Scott. Aye, sir, I'm working on it. Oh, it's just an awesome scene. I'm sorry, I gotta watch it with you guys. Phew. Like, what did they expect, Starfleet? If this ship keeps backing up and explodes in there, there's going to be some serious damage going on in that space dock. I would have been opening the doors for them, personally. And there's more damage on top of the saucer section. When did this happen? When did this occur? Oh, beautiful. Check that out. And there she is again. And then she's like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to be on this set. And she walks away. You never see her again. But it's cool how they have flashing multicolored displays like the original series. Doesn't make sense with a new class of starship and the way they're going with the design, but whatever. There she's again. Oh, there's the moon. Oh, beautiful. Is it just me, or do they go to warp within the solar system? No, they're not supposed to do that. I know they're stealing the ship and they're not supposed to do that either, but going to warp in a solar system is very dangerous. Especially a solar system as busy as Earth's solar system, being the heart of the Federation. That's really risky.
Prepare for warp speed, stand by Transwarp Drive.
And they're going to try Transwarp Drive in the solar system when it's untested. And this ship must be made by Ford. This must be the Mustang of starships. I don't like Mustangs, guys. I'm a Camaro guy. But yeah, this looks like the Mustang of starships by the way it performs here. Sorry, Mustang lovers. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now the Excelsior has to be towed back into space dock. The more they overtake the plane, the easier it is to stop up the drain. Here, Doctor, souvenirs from one surgeon to another. It might have remained Transwarp computer drive. Nice of you to tell me in advance. Well, that's what you do as your staff meetings, Doctor. And your work today has been outstanding. I congratulate you all for promotion in whatever fleet we end up serving. Best speed to Genesis. I also realized upon watching the clip back that I forgot to mention, you guys might be interested in how Transwarp Drive works. Transwarp Drive basically uses the transporters to enhance your warp drive. Essentially, to make it simple, simple explanation, they use the transporter to beam the warp engines ahead of the ship. So the ship theoretically has to travel faster to catch up to the warp engines. That's just a basic, simple explanation of how it's supposed to work. And it never really works for the Federation, so they scrap it on the Excelsior. By the time it becomes the Excelsior and Sulu gets command, it's just got regular warp drive on it. But that's just a little tidbit of how the Transwarp Drive is supposed to work. On the Grissom.
Saavik, that's extraordinary.
This scene too, wanted prisoners. Target the engine only. The guy fucks up, pulls up the ship, and he's like, I wanted prisoners. What does Kirk say at the beginning of Star Trek 2? After Saavik fails the Kobayashi Maru. Prayer, Mr. Saavik. The Klingons don't take prisoners. In this scene, listen. That's definitely Leonard Nimoy's voice. And this scene's just awesome. This thing tries to like basically kill him, so he crushes it. I'm gonna crush you. And as soon as he's done, bridge, nothing happening here. We're all good. Thank God Chekhov got rid of the collar. It sucked. This looks much better. Doesn't look like a goddamn Quaker. It's time for Pon farr, which she stated earlier, Vulcans and males must endure every 7 years of their adult life. I don't know about you, but I rather enjoy enduring sex. So insert sexy Pon farr time music here. No. I'll just go because I'm like embarrassing myself. Love this part. Watch David's face. He's like, Daddy's here, and it's Kirk. He's gonna kick everybody's ass. We're gonna be safe. Gunner. Target engine only. Understood? Well, since you killed the last guy that didn't target only the engine, yeah, I understand, dude. One of the best scenes in Star Trek history. Face to face with the bird of prey. In this scene, Destruct means I don't care which. So every time my wife asks me, what do you want? Do you want this or do you want this? I'm always like, Destruct. kind of one of my favorite sayings. Destruct. I don't care which. Something I use all the time. Okay, so let's just rewind that a bit. They do the destruct sequence, and apparently Kirk has not reset his code for like, you know, with the Rogers box and ordering pay-per-views. The regular code, the standard one is 0000. Everyone has that. Nobody changes it. His destruct code for final countdown is 000 destruct 0. He just hasn't reset it. But no. If you'll notice here, we've got the refitted Enterprise schematic. So apparently they're willing to install a new program in the ship's computer so that the destruct code has the right schematic, but not the security protocols screen with the blueprint that we saw earlier. That was still the original Constitution class ship. What they expect in the ship more likely to self-destruct than to have a security issue. Just seems kind of sketchy, that whole part, don't you think? This is such a sad thing. To me, this is more sad than Spock dying at the end of Star Trek 2. I consider the Enterprise to be one of the main characters of this show. Like, my favorite character. And she's dying. It's sad. I don't like it. I can't do it. She burns up in the atmosphere. It's sad.
I'm done.
What have I
What
done?
have I done? What you had to do. What you always do. Turn death into a fighting chance to live.
So that's one of my saddest Star Trek memories. This beautiful ship that we've loved for all these years, gone. And talk about growing pains. Man, this must hurt like a lot. Like, look at this. Face is bubbling. And this whole thing with malts.
Bones, help Spock. We're gonna break out of orbit. You. Help us or die.
I
Do not deserve to live.
So I'll kill you later.
Fine, I'll kill you later.
Let's get out of here.
And
Mr. Chekhov, take a prisoner.
I said, wait. You
said you would kill me.
Hello.
Lied. Funny little thing about malts there. He got taken prisoner. And if you have the Star Trek Klingon dictionary, if you read the introduction,
Talk to me.
at the very end, it says, Maltz, we thank you. Because Maltz, once they got him to Vulcan, he helped them write the Klingon dictionary so that we have an understanding of the Klingon language. So thank you, Maltz. Actually, that's him right there, pointing at Commander Krug. So, pretty interesting little fact. Don't know if you guys knew that about the Star Trek dictionary. It all came about because of Maltz.
I'm gonna tell you something there.
I don't know if you noticed, but this symbol behind her looks exactly like this. Didn't notice that at first myself, so just thought I'd point that out for you guys. Also, there's some sexy little Vulcan honeys showing up in a second, wearing almost nothing. Like if you look at them all back here, look at these outfits. Like look, you can see that her silhouette. Like, oh, sexy little Vulcan honeys. And there's more sexiness going on. Love Vulcan. And the adventure continues. So that's it for Star Trek 3, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing Star Trek 4 next. The whale one, as everyone calls it. So look forward to that, and I will see you guys very soon. This is Captain Foley. Out. See you later.